Alexander Menshikov was the first governor of St. Petersburg. In addition, he was a talented military leader, and in the Northern War, he annexed new lands to the city on the Neva. Alexander received an 11th part of this territory as a gift from Peter the Great. On it, he built a city estate, which housed not only the Menshikov Palace itself, but also a meadery, baths, flower beds, a forge, and even a bakery. Peter I often held receptions here, and his son, Alexei Petrovich, even got married. The Palace of Prince Menshikov is one of the most outstanding architectural monuments of the 18th century. The beginning of construction dates back to 1710. The main architects were Giovanni Maria Fontana and Gottfried Johann Schettel. They were also the authors of the Grand Palace in Oranienbaum. The construction of the palace lasted for years, but it was finally ready only 17 years later. Peter the Great called this place the Ambassadorial House and loved to hold gala dinners and meetings there. In addition to the emperor's son, his niece also had her wedding in the palace. In the same year, when all the finishing works were completed, in 1727, Prince Menshikov was accused of corruption and treason. His punishment was exile to the north, and the palace was transferred to the treasury. A few years later, the layout of the building was changed. It was decided to house the land gentry corps in it, and the entire spacious territory of the palace was donated to the cadet corps. In a short time, several more new buildings were erected on this square. At the end of the 18th century, the appearance of the palace was slightly changed. It was simplified and made less luxurious and majestic. In the 19th century, the building was reconstructed for the first time. In the 20th century, it was decided to return the palace to its original appearance, and another large-scale reconstruction was organized. After all the work was completed, the building was handed over to the Hermitage, and the palace became a branch of this museum. Since 1981, the palace has housed valuable exhibits telling about the history and culture of the era of Peter the Great. The Menshikov Palace is a striking example of Peter the Great's Baroque. On the main facade, you can see spectacular pilasters, capitals, and an attic. In the decoration, you can see gilded princely crowns and monograms. On the protruding part of the palace, you can see the orchestra loggia, where musicians greeted distinguished guests who arrived along the Neva. The structure of the Menshikov Palace surprisingly combines European architectural trends with Russian traditions. For example, there is a special area for children, the decoration of which is noticeably different from the rest of the palace, and cellars are equipped on the basement floor. In addition to them, there was a large wine cellar of the prince. It consisted of 9 rooms, and Russian and foreign wines were stored separately. To this day, you can see the supporting structures of the palace on the basement floor, and this is one of the first stone buildings in St. Petersburg. The tiled interiors deserve special attention. The palace was one of the first buildings in Russia and St. Petersburg to replicate fashionable French interiors. A tile is a special ceramic or clay tile, almost 30,000 of which were used in the palace's decoration, each one handmade by artists. The walled cabinet was named so because of its decoration, a walled panel. The hand-painted decoration is perfectly preserved. You can see Peter the Great, weapons attributes, and military scenes. One of the staircases is never used by guests and palace workers. It is a separate exhibit. The massive oak staircase was the main one in the palace until the last restoration. In addition, the palace has many ceremonial halls and offices, because it was not only a residential building, but also an office building. Unusual exhibits can be found everywhere: an 18th century clock, carpets, paintings, statues. Some of them are antique. For example, in the central vestibule, you can see a figure of Apollo, which dates back to the 2nd century. What other buildings are part of the Menshikov Palace complex? The Menshikov Palace complex includes several buildings. The Ambassadorial Palace, a wooden building used to receive foreign delegations. The Church of the Resurrection, a wattle and daub church that served as a place of worship. The Manager's House, a stone two-story building where the estate manager lived. These buildings formed a small town on an island, surrounded by gardens and parks, but only the palace itself has survived to this day.